Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of August 9th through the 15th. And before I go off on the astrology thing, I used to always do this in my blogs at the end if there was little astronomical type notes of what's going on in the sky. And I've been doing the blogs, filling up a half hour or even a little bit more pretty easily, so I don't get to those notes. But I just wanted everybody to know this is the peak of the week of the Perseid meteor shower. So if you're lucky enough to be somewhere where it's cloudless, at least a night or two this week, especially midweek, it's peaking and talk 50, 60, 70 meteors per hour, coming mainly out of a northeast radiant, but like all over the sky mainly. So you should be able to catch some of that if you can get a cloudless night. I know the summer is definitely a time where that can be tough for a lot of parts of the world, so the US too. So, but good luck. Maybe you'll see some. I've been seeing some in the last couple of weeks. I mean, the shower itself has already been going on for 2 or 3 weeks, and it goes on for another 2 or 3 weeks too. But it is peaking this week. Okay, enough of that. Anyway, at least I didn't forget. So this week, the main thing going on is 2 of our inner planets are changing signs, and they're both going into signs of rulership, which is going to put them in really strong positions as far as what their natural ability is and how that works through us. And that is Mercury will be going into Virgo and Venus will be going into Libra. But there's a few things that happen actually with them earlier this week before they move on that I wanted to mention first. And then I also wanted to mention that next weekend has some, kind of bumpy, awkward energy. So like a little bit of a shift going on there too that I wanted to talk about. So the first thing is Venus on Monday, today, is going to be opposite Neptune. So Venus is going to get involved with that Neptune-Pluto sextile that we've seen some of the other planets get involved in. And this is a pretty good one. I think Venus is opposite Neptune, which, can have some mixed things, but then it will trine Pluto on Wednesday. So like this whole early part of the week, especially before Venus goes into Libra next Sunday, there'll be a lot of like this influence of the Venus, Neptune, Pluto. And if you remember what I've said in a very basic way about the long ongoing Neptune-Pluto sextile, which is, just about in orb these days, but is like one of these long-term transits, is getting an opportunity to use our ideals to transform ourselves and the world around us. And when we look at the way the world is shifting right now, as I've said before, that really is really is an opportunity to do that right now. There is an opportunity to get ideals going in the world and help to transform ourselves and the world around us. So so that's what Venus does when it triggers it, is coming in with the opposition to Neptune. First off is like there's a lot of idealism tied up in relationships with Venus and Neptune, which, can be good, but can also have some mixed results. Venus and Neptune are all about love, and Venus is the lower vibration of love, or the physical and human manifestations of love through relationships, mainly your relationships with different people who you love and the different forms that love takes. And then there's Venus, and then there's Neptune, which is a higher vibration of love. It's unconditional love, it's spiritual love, it's empathic, it's understanding, it's compassion, basically. Whereas Venus has a tendency when it goes into love to get really the ego and personality involved too. So it's more of the, when I say lower vibration, it's more like self-satisfying, that kind of thing. So when they get together like this, there's a blending of those two vibrations of love, and that can really have some really amazing mystical soul union type of connections with certain people in one-on-one relationships, and that can really feed the idealism that you have about certain things and relationships in particular, in love in particular. But the problem is too, Neptune can be very misleading too, in the sense that we can be self-deceptive and self-delusive about what we're seeing in others, maybe only like seeing them through rose-colored glasses, or the good parts, or the parts that in particular line up with our ideals. So what can happen in reality is that those people can't really measure up to what your ideals are. That's really not even possible for someone to do. And to have that expectation is self-delusion. And so like there can be disappointment when loved ones or others that we're working with let us down when they don't meet those ideals. But once again, a lot of that is a projection of your own ideas and a self-delusion kind of thing that's going on. But once again, it's like, so we are very sensitive to people, so we can have some great connections with people, sensitive to our environment, a really good time to beautify things. Now, what's interesting about this, when you talk about it going to the trine to Pluto, that to me is a really positive result of this energy. And in the sense that, like, if those ideals are met on that deep soul union type of level with different people that you're involved in, then you can really get to a real deep intimate connection very easily, get really into a flow of transformative emotional depth that can really bring a relationship and yourself to these new planes or depths of reality and consciousness that really push a new level of understanding of yourself and others and how you relate to yourself and others. So it's a very, very deep kind of thing, and you can get into some really deep creative work too with others with that kind of energy. So real interesting. And then to top that off, like I said, Mercury also changing signs this week is also doing something interesting right before that too, which I think will actually feed some of this energy. And it's Mercury is going to be opposite Jupiter on Tuesday. So this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, these three aspects I think will really work together. With Mercury opposite Jupiter, once again, we find ourselves in a lot of one-on-one connections, communications with others over big plans, over things about the future, over these very wide, broad visions that can be very stimulating, very positive, very optimistic. The thing is, with the Mercury-Jupiter opposition, and whenever Mercury is with Jupiter, it has this broad vision, but it hasn't really completely checked all the details and gotten down to the work. Now, it's capable of doing that, but like they really move at super speed together, the mind, when Jupiter and Mercury get together like this. So like it has a tendency to even get like arrogant or self-righteous, pompous, that kind of thing. I kind of puff up the chest about the mind and the ideas that you have, and yet there's still a lot of detail that needs to be taken care of. So you can see how something like, how these three transits can play together, where the Venus-Neptune can bring in some ideals into the relationship, really inflate some kind of vision or plan with relationships. That would be the Mercury-Jupiter, and then really, if you connect well, bring a lot of depth and change and transformation through what you're doing for yourself and the others in those relationships through the Venus trine Pluto. So very interesting dynamic energy, I think, to work once again, getting our ideals into using these opportunities of a changing world to get our ideals going on these deeper levels that bring transformation to self and others. And remember, with Pluto, it always has to include others. If it does not, you're on a path of self-destruction, ultimately. So then, Wednesday, Thursday, Mercury goes into Virgo. So when Mercury is in Virgo, it's in rulership, just like when it's in Gemini. Mercury rules two signs, both Gemini and Virgo. And there's a very big difference, though, of what the way they function together. They're both mutable signs, because that's what Mercury is. Mercury is very fast-moving, mutable type energy, the mind jumping very quickly. But Mercury is also exalted in Virgo also, so it's got this double strength. And what's interesting about it is this is not the Mercury who's the trickster in Virgo, like in Gemini, that trickster, witty, quick, jumping around, jokester type Mercury. This is the Mercury who now has the full understanding of where it wants to go with the ideas it's been introduced to, and he's rolling up the sleeves and has got itself really focused on attention and detail. And so the danger of that is getting into a very critical or judgmental mind, especially if we start pushing that out on others. That will not be received well. That's always the issue with Virgo energy, is to, the discernment of Virgo is so fine, like a fine-tooth comb, that it can see all the little issues, but it really needs to remember that it has, just as many of those issues within itself. So if you want to get into a critical mind, it's best to do that with yourself rather than others, if you want to maintain a nice relationship with people and not get known to be like, that nitpicky Virgo person. So anyway, really, here's the other thing about the Mercury in Virgo is the perfecting of our techniques and our work in our forms. So the ability to use tools in our hands and our mind all together, like in this, trine kind of energy, these three things that Mercury have lots to do with: the mind and intellect, the hands, and the ability of the hands to shape what the mind is perceiving into some kind of form through the third thing, the use of tools. So, perfecting our techniques is really what Mercury in Virgo is all about. So that's a really, and that will go on for 2-3 weeks. Now remember, Mars is in Virgo too right now, and one of the things that's interesting about what I was just saying about the Virgo energy, being, getting critical too much and too judgmental and maybe turning other people off, is that both Mercury and Mars are going to square the nodal axis this week, the north and south node. And that actually has a lot to do with our relationship within group communities, organizations, associations, things like that. And so here you see the square comes in. We will have a tendency this week to put ourselves at odds with groups if we get into this Virgo critical, judgmental mind. And you may find yourself in a lot of tense situations personally because of allowing the ego and the mind to kind of get off and not be sensitive to what's going on with the reception or the energy we're putting out within groups and organizations and stuff. So that's something we're going to have to be aware of and keep the reins in, on that. Okay, and then, like I said, on Sunday, Venus is going to go into Libra, which is one of the two signs that Venus rules. And so when Venus goes into Libra, Libra is all about creating balance and harmony in relationships. It's all about the other. It's all about seeing and learning about ourselves from the other. And Venus in Libra is this just beautiful, graceful type of energy where we can really tap into that and project that from ourselves, like beautify ourselves, and not just physically, in just like, just the way we socialize, approach things, that kind of thing, and just even the surroundings and things that we're in, just making them more harmonious, more beautiful, making people at ease. So this like the gracefulness of the goddess being brought into our relationships while Venus will be in Libra in the next few weeks. And so also, like, relationship becomes really important to people. Like the one-on-one relationship is very, very, very important to people. And we have to remember, like, this is when we can easily project our issues onto others. So what we need to do is really kind of learn about ourselves from other there and not give in too much. One of the things about Libra is like always like this kind of like indecisive energy because it's trying to please everyone, and which is not possible to do. And so, like, try not getting too much lost on that, like making sure that you're solid in where you're at and not giving in and over compromising, that kind of thing. The other thing about Venus and Libra that's kind of funny is that it's not willing to work as hard as it's a more passive kind of energy is a good way to say it. It's likes its like creature comfort, so to speak. That's a Venus thing, like Venus and Taurus, very similar on that level, and doesn't necessarily want to put a lot of strong physical effort into things necessarily, but is more into like just really having a good time, socializing, being with friends, things like that. So that energy kicks in on Sunday. And then one last thing I wanted to mention this week is this weekend. This weekend might be a good weekend to not plan on getting that much work done. I think that would be a really good way to just say this. There's 3 quincunxes, one on Friday, one on Saturday, and one on Sunday. And they all are about the, one way or another, the loss or diffusion of energy, drive, motivation, those kind of things for various reasons. So to me, rather than fighting that energy it would be better to just maybe plan on, like, chilling out this weekend. But the first one that kicks in will be Friday, when Mars quincunxes Saturn. And this one can actually be the most difficult one. Because when Mars quincunxes Saturn, it can really bring some kind of restriction into our actions, our ability to move, even, so like injuries, illnesses, things like that, bodily type of pains and things like that can slow us down. And if that's not the case, then many times it's just whoever the authority is above us, whoever we're working for, things like that, who are slowing us down or restricting us in some way. So there can be a lot of inner frustration that it can be kind of like the smoldering kind of resentment kind of thing that can build up. It is okay for working on long-term projects if you're not really expecting a quick payoff, that would be the thing. But once again, more than anything, I would say that it's about, just realizing that your normal amount of energy and motivation is probably not going to be there coming up this weekend. And so that feeds right into Saturday, when our friend, the goddess Venus, who's just gone into Libra, quincunxes Jupiter. And so that's just okay, I'm going to really take it easy, which is fine. I mean, it's actually the attitude of wanting to take it easy with your loved ones and just enjoying the pleasures of life and not having any responsibilities and just kind of chilling out. It's kind of let me sit back on the couch with you or my family or whatever and watch Netflix and get the popcorn maker out and that kind of thing. It's one of these very passive, let me enjoy things kind of energy. It's hard to get motivated once again to want to go out and really do anything very focused. And then that runs right into Sunday, when the sun quincunxes Neptune, which is, once again, Neptune is the great diffuser of energy, and the sun is our drive, our motivation, our, what we're doing. So once again, we have this bumpy quincunx where the energy is just not available to, that we normally have. And although it's not a negative thing, again, it's more like the Venus-Jupiter thing in the sense of just feeling passive and lazy. I think the biggest danger with Sun-Neptune is becoming too much of a follower, not, just kind of accepting what others may be saying and their ideals or their spiel, and not really, just kind of being soft and mushy about it, and not really standing up for yourself. So also a lot of sensitivity, once again, to the environment, to others around you. So if there's negative people around you, that can really drag you down, confuse you, find that, they're not able to live up to your ideals, that kind of thing. So that can be a little bit tough too with the Sun Neptune, but it can be a lot of creative inspiration again, as some that can be hatched in that. But long story short is, this weekend coming up, next weekend, would just be a really good weekend to just take it easy, just not be so driven by the normal things that push you, and just kind of relax, enjoy life, realize things are going to be a little squishy, and just not try to fight that energy. I mean, that's always what astrology is about, is not fighting the energy, but finding a way to work with the energy, no matter what the energy is, and it will always be in your favor. Then the results and consequences will work more than just blind chance in your favor. That's really one of the biggest gifts astrology gives us, is the ability to work within the framework of that energy, and therefore get better results than blind chance would give us, even, better results than 50-50. Anyway, that's what we got this week. So like I said, a lot of interesting energy in the beginning of the week through relationships, dynamics, a couple planets changing signs into very strong places where they operate really well, and then kind of the lost weekend. Okay, so the Astrological Winds channel is on YouTube. That's where it originates from. Become a follower. It's a free service. You have to have a YouTube account and then become a follower, turn your notifications on. And the best thing you guys can do for me, since it's a free service, is to please pass the link on to somebody else who you think might be interested in it. The forecast is also available on multiple podcasts. I'm getting more and more responses through the podcasts, actually, from different places in the world. So I know it's out there. It's really starting to spread. It's also on Instagram. The link to it is on Instagram. Just look up Astrological Winds channel. You can become a follower on Instagram too. I do try to social media blitz some of you guys, but it's like, it's becoming more and more. So I don't get to everybody every week. So you got to be a little self-responsible here if you want to hear the blog. And some folks like to send a little donation. So that's great too. My Zelle and my Venmo are the same as my email. And my email is mattthue823@gmail.com. I'm also available for all kinds of readings. So that's the other best way you guys can pay me back. If you need a reading or anyone else needs a reading, I've been doing readings now for 19 years professionally. So natal charts, which is your birth chart, get to know that well. Then predictive, which I recommend doing once a year, which is basically your weather forecast, just like what I'm doing here every week, except I do that for you for a year. And then also all kinds of other stuff, relationship charts, relocation, if you're thinking about moving somewhere else, children's charts, election charts if you're looking for the best timing for an event. I do fixed star readings for deeper soul purpose, if you're really looking into some of the deep stuff that's going on that level in your life. And then and even horary, if you got a simple horary question you haven't been able to find the answer and it's an emotionally charged thing, then that can even be done. And I'm also available for all kinds of events. You need some kind of lecture or quick readings at your event or something. Any of these services, once again, just give me an email, mattthue823@gmail.com. All right, until next week, get a chance maybe to go outside one of these nights this week if you get a clear night, and try to, get a shooting star or two into your mind there by, taking a look up at our sky. And Jupiter is the really bright planet on the southeast horizon, and then Saturn's a little to the right of it, not nearly as bright. All right, until next week, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel.